who was not part of the Nasi. He was probably as bright as Maimonides in some ways. And he was from Girona. And now the king asked him one day, tell me what's the rights of the Nesiim? And he said to them, I mean, he was considered a traitor at that time. He said, I cannot lie to the king. I have to tell him there is nothing in Jewish law that the Nesiim has to be, I mean, they're title coming, but it doesn't have to give them any rights and everything. So you can have rights of the other people. And then that started the really, for several hundred of years, the struggle between the rationalists, the Nesiim, and the Kabbalists of Nachmanides, and which was the middle class and all that. It ended up that we lost. And I think the Jewish community in the world lost because of that. Because when the 1492 came, everything was in the Kabbalah, so God will take care of it. They were not ready. So that's why so many have suffered and all that. We talk about 100,000 Jews that left Spain in the expulsion. True. But what really happened is that about 50% of them came back. And come back and said, Mea culpa, and became Christians. Okay, now they became, the one thing great that Professor Paloma mentioned is, and it's perfect because I didn't hear many people talking about it, is that in Spain, because of the conversion and everything, nobody really forced them to convert. So when they decided to stay, it was their choice. In Portugal, it was different, exactly as she said. You know, they threw waters on them and said, you're Christians now. They didn't let them leave. That's why the spirit of the conversos became much stronger. Now, so we talk about rationalism on one side, and eventually, in 1305 was a settlement of the fight. There was the Nesiim actually submitted, and there is the Rashba, of the Maimonides disputation, and all that they call it. And then they signed the Rashba order, which prohibits the Jews from studying Greek, which means non-Jewish, non-religious thing, with the exception of medicine, over the age of 30, and Maimonides, which was really rationalism, but the Nachmanides and his people could not have the guts to say, don't study that. So, but in all that time, we talked about what we contributed, what we left, the footsteps that we left. Names. When, you know, Eastern European Jews, I assume you're familiar with it, you have last name for only 250 years. It was Avram, then Yankel, then Itzik, then this, unless you are a major rabbinical family, which they trace and they know exactly what it is. Our family came in 1050, 60, we don't know exactly, but at 1062 there is the first document with the Shaltiel A Davidic. 1062, business transaction. I, Druda, bat Mar Shaltiel. I'm Druda, the daughter of Mar Shaltiel. Her husband, she couldn't write it, her husband, Gertrude, signed it for her, okay? So that was the legal document. So from that time, okay, we had names. So because at that time, not only us, the Christian family, the royal family also start having names, and only at that time, with the titles and all that stuff. So now we have they took how the pattern of giving names by name of ancient ancestor. Our ancestor was Shaltiel. So guess what? The first son of the last exilar of Israel, Shaltiel. He was the one who came to Barcelona. So he was like the first Nasi. He was Mar. The difference between Mar and Nasi was every son, every member of the royal family of David. The Mar was a title of, in Spanish they call it Infante. Either the king or the one who's going to become a king. So that was the Mar Shaltiel. And of course, what happened is because in Baghdad, okay, the caliph tried to appoint a Rosh Gola, exilar, who was not the family, and that was it, I'm Mar. Then they suggested that David, the brother, will come back to Baghdad in a smaller capacity, and he will be the Rosh Gola. At that time, Mar Shaltiel dropped the title Mar, and they became Nasi. So that was the reason of my mistake, thinking there was Yitzhak, because I combined that Shaltiel with the first, like we saw here, remnants of Roman time Jewish area, but in Hebrew, tombstone, the first one, the oldest one that you have in this country. It's in Toledo, the museum, is a tombstone of Shaltiel and his son, Shmuel. And I thought, because it was he died, the cemetery was Monzon del Campos. And Monzon del Campos is also mentioned by some other people as the sons of Chizkiah ben David went there. Well, but it's not the same Shaltiel. It could not be the same Shaltiel because he died in 1092. Okay, that's a tombstone from. He cannot be the same one that his daughter signed decree that she bought the property in 1061. So I presume he was a grandson. Okay, so now we know the pattern of the names. Now, what happened is, 2 or 3 generations later, just like the Christians, aristocracy, not all the people, the aristocracy of the Christian and the Nesiim families, they start giving also other last names. So they go of a more recent ancient ancestor. They want to divide between themselves to see who are. So then we have the family of Benveniste, the family of Sheshet, Kere, and they were all, and I have all the names in the article, you can find it and all that, but they all belong to the same one family, sometimes through a female, sometimes through a male, but they all start to have names. So actually some very important scholars write that all the Haggadot, which is about a dozen, I thought it was 4 or 5, Mas corrected me, about a dozen Haggadot at that time, they all belong to the family of Nesiim. Nobody could afford it because you invite the artist and he worked for 2 or 3 years on it, it cost a lot of money. So all of them were there. The Shaltiel Haggadah, or the brothers Haggadah, it was only one of them, but all of them were very make sense. So we left the Haggadot. I found a document from the 13th century of, this, I'm a student of law. I went to law school. When I read cases from the 13th century in Spain, it's like you read Supreme Court decision. It's so wonderful. I mean, a description of the testimony, of the witnesses, it was very, very clear. So here there is a testimony of somebody and describing Sectiforium Saltellus. You know what Sectiforium means? Coat of arms. So here I'm discovering that my father's stories, the BS stories about coat of arms, the Shaltiel, actually exist. So years later, we found it. We found it in Crete, and this is it. That's actually the inside part of it. And you can see the Lion of Judah here, and it's actually human face, and that's Lion of Judah. Now, even in Christian Spain, in coat of arms, first of all, coat of arms has to be royal permission. Now, even the aristocrats of the Christian society couldn't put a lion in coat of arms unless they were royalties. The fact is, there was a Jewish family that were licensed to create coat of arms with a lion. That means they accepted it that we're a royal family. So we have the coat of arms. We had now, at the same time, you can see this, it's almost the same, and the greatest academic, in my opinion, of medieval genealogy, Professor David Kelly he's passed away, from Canada, he was a Harvard guy. He said, he figured out it's 85% the same coat of arms. Now, who's that coat of arms? It's the Colonimus family. Very brief about it. Colonimus family are also House of David family that came even before Charlemagne. After the conquest of his father, the Short, he came to the Jews in Narbonne and said, listen, help me take over. They said, well, we don't owe any responsibility to the Muslims. We actually own the town, but we're paying them for protection. Promise us to bring us a king for House of David. That's a story, and you know what? It happened. Because we have the documentation, we have the family trees, Le Roi des Juifs, under the Carolingian. So now we are all the Shaltiels who are as much